Officer Daniel Brooks had worked patrol in Phoenix, Arizona, for nearly a decade, but nothing about that warm afternoon felt unusual, at least not at first. The sun rested low behind the palm-lined street as he walked beside his canine partner, Shadow, who sniffed the air with his usual alert focus. Daniel trusted Shadow more than most people. The dog had a startling instinct for danger. But as they approached a quiet residential block, Shadow tensed, lifted his head sharply, and growled low, a sound Daniel rarely heard during routine patrols. Before Daniel could command him, Shadow lunged forward with explosive speed. The dog sprinted across the sidewalk toward a pregnant woman strolling peacefully, unaware of anything wrong. Daniel's heart jumped into his throat, and he broke into a run, shouting for Shadow to stop. The woman looked up, startled, as the German Shepherd leapt at her with his full weight, knocking her harshly to the side. Gasps erupted from the nearby houses as neighbors rushed out, yelling at Daniel, some accusing him of letting his dog attack an innocent woman. The scene unraveled in seconds: panic, shouting, confusion, but Shadow ignored all of it. He was laser-focused on where the woman had been standing moments earlier. As she tried to sit up, trembling, Daniel reached her side and apologized urgently, helping her check for injuries. Then they all saw it. The exact spot she had been standing on suddenly crumbled inward, a thin crust of cement collapsing into a 3-foot drop. Beneath it was a freshly formed sinkhole, masked by dust and loose grit. One more step forward and she would have dropped straight into it. The woman stared at the gaping hole, her breath catching in her throat. Her hands instinctively went to her stomach, the shock making her knees weak. Realizing what had just happened, she grabbed Shadow's face and hugged him tightly, unable to hold back tears. She kept repeating "thank you," over and over, her voice shaking with disbelief. The neighbors, who had initially shouted, now stood in stunned silence. Daniel felt a wave of relief wash through him. Shadow's actions had prevented a tragedy. Emergency crews arrived soon after, securing the area and confirming the sinkhole had formed due to an underground pipe failure. Multiple news stations picked up the story, labeling Shadow the jump that saved 2 lives. Interviews, camera crews, and calls from local officials followed, but Daniel knew Shadow didn't care about praise. The dog cared about humans, especially those unaware of the danger surrounding them. For Daniel, the entire event only deepened the unspoken bond between officer and K9, a trust forged through countless hours of work. Just days later, Daniel and Shadow were assigned to assist with a search operation in the Tonto National Forest. A group of hikers had reported distant crying sounds near a rugged trail, and local authorities wanted to ensure no child or animal was in distress. Daniel welcomed the shift from city chaos to the calm of the forest. Tall pines swayed against the sky, and the wind carried the scent of damp earth and sun-warmed bark. Shadow moved ahead with disciplined precision, his nose close to the ground as he scanned for scents. Several hours into the search, Shadow suddenly froze. He raised his head, ears forward, listening. Daniel stopped and knelt beside him, waiting for the signal he knew would come next. A faint, fragile whimper floated through the trees, barely audible, but enough for Shadow to lock onto. Daniel's pulse quickened. He activated his radio, alerting the team, and followed Shadow as the dog guided him through a patch of thick underbrush. The further they moved, the clearer the sound became. It wasn't an animal. It was unmistakably the soft, exhausted cry of a child. When they reached a small clearing, Daniel saw a tangle of broken branches pressed over a tiny body. A young Apache boy, no older than 6 or 7, was wedged beneath fallen debris, too weak to move. His clothes were torn, his skin covered with dirt, scratches, and signs of dehydration. Daniel dropped to his knees, gently clearing the branches while speaking in a calm, steady voice. The boy's eyes fluttered open, frightened but hopeful. Shadow lay down beside him, offering warmth and comfort without being commanded. Daniel wrapped the boy in his jacket and lifted him carefully, feeling how light and fragile his body was. The child clung to Daniel's shirt with trembling hands, too drained to speak. Shadow stayed close as they made their way back toward the trail where paramedics were waiting. The boy drank water in slow sips, his breathing stabilizing as he rested in Daniel's arms. Despite the exhaustion in his eyes, there was a quiet strength there, a will to survive. Daniel knew the child had been alone for far too long in the cold forest nights. As medics examined in Phoenix, Arizona, Officer Daniel Brooks began his early morning patrol with his loyal K9 partner, Shadow. The sun had barely risen, and a soft orange glow stretched across the quiet suburban neighborhood. While Daniel scanned the peaceful street, Shadow's ears suddenly perked up, sensing something Daniel could not. The dog's body tensed, and without warning, he lunged forward with surprising speed. Daniel barely had time to react as Shadow sprinted straight toward a pregnant woman walking slowly along the sidewalk, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. Paragraph 2, approximately 100 words. Before the woman understood what was happening, the dog leapt at her, knocking her backward. Her startled scream echoed through the quiet street, and neighbors who saw the scene rushed toward the commotion. Several people shouted at Daniel, accusing the police dog of turning violent. For a split second, even Daniel's heart tightened with concern. Shadow had never behaved aggressively before. But within seconds, the truth revealed itself. Beneath the spot where the woman had been walking, the sidewalk had begun to collapse inward. A deep sinkhole had formed directly in her path, hidden from plain sight. Paragraph 3, approximately 100 words. Had she taken just one more step, she would have fallen straight into the opening, risking severe injury, or worse. The pregnant woman, shaking and overwhelmed by shock, stared at the ground as the pavement continued to crumble. Realization washed over her. Shadow had not attacked her, he had saved her life and the life of her unborn child. Tears filled her eyes as she reached out to pet the dog, whispering her thanks again and again. Daniel felt relief flood through him. His partner had acted on instinct, making a life-saving decision faster than any human could. Paragraph 4, approximately 100 words. Within minutes, news crews arrived, alerted by bystanders who had filmed the extraordinary moment. The footage spread quickly across local stations, earning Shadow praise from reporters and city officials alike. Many called it the jump that saved 2 lives, and the story became a symbol of the unspoken bond between officers and their canine partners. For Daniel, it served as a powerful reminder of why he had joined the force and why he trusted Shadow with his life. Yet neither of them realized that their courage would soon lead them into an even more unexpected situation. Paragraph 5, approximately 100 words. Later that week, Daniel and Shadow were assigned to assist in a routine search operation near the Tonto National Forest, a region known for its wide, rugged terrain. The forest stretched endlessly, filled with towering pines and rocky trails where hikers occasionally got lost. Their mission that day was straightforward: check remote areas for signs of distress or recent activity. The air felt crisp and quiet, with only the rustle of leaves and distant calls of wildlife breaking the silence. But deep within the forest, something unusual waited, something that would change the course of their week entirely. Paragraph 6, approximately 100 words. As Daniel walked along a narrow path, Shadow suddenly stopped and lowered his head, listening intently. A faint, fragile sound drifted through the trees, a soft whimper, almost too quiet to notice. Daniel froze. Shadow turned toward the sound and began leading the way, moving carefully but urgently. The whimpering grew clearer as they approached a fallen tree surrounded by dense brush. Daniel pushed away branches and debris, scanning the ground. Then he saw him, a tiny Apache child, no older than 6 or 7, lying beneath a cluster of broken branches, his eyes half open and filled with fear. Paragraph 7, approximately 100 words. The boy's clothes were torn and dirty, and his small frame looked painfully thin. He tried to lift his hand, but he was too weak. Daniel's breath tightened at the sight. Without hesitation, he dropped to one knee and gently cleared the branches trapping the child. Shadow lay beside them, whining softly, as if trying to comfort the boy. The child's lips trembled, but no words came out. Daniel removed his jacket and wrapped it around the boy's fragile body, offering warmth and reassurance. The child leaned into the touch, finding safety in the officer's steady presence. Paragraph 8, approximately 100 words. Daniel radioed for immediate medical assistance, but they were miles from the nearest entry point. Knowing the boy couldn't wait, he lifted him into his arms. The child felt weightless, a sign of how long he had gone without proper food or water. Shadow trotted closely beside them, watching for any threats. As Daniel walked, he spoke softly to the boy, reassuring him that he was safe now. Though the child did not respond, his eyes began to show faint signs of trust, clinging to the comfort Daniel provided. Every step through the forest felt urgent and heavy. Paragraph 9, approximately 100 words. When they finally reached the ranger station, medics rushed to take the child inside. Tests revealed severe dehydration, exhaustion, and hunger, but no permanent injuries. Daniel stayed nearby, refusing to leave until he was certain the boy would recover. While the doctors worked, Shadow lay outside the room, guarding the door. Despite the whirlwind of events, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this rescue was no coincidence. The boy had been alone for far too long, and someone, somewhere, must have been searching desperately for him. Something deeper was unfolding, something he had yet to understand. Paragraph 10, approximately 100 words. Reports were filed, officers were alerted, and search inquiries were sent across multiple counties. Yet for the moment, Daniel focused solely on the small child who had survived against impossible odds. He brought food, warm blankets, and gentle reassurance each time the boy stirred awake. The child's eyes followed him with quiet recognition, slowly forming a bond built on gratitude and safety. What Daniel didn't know was that this act of kindness would soon bring unexpected visitors to his door, people who would reveal the child's identity and forever connect Daniel and Shadow to a story beyond their imagination.